over me. She caught me with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Paranormal Portal, Bedtime Stories From Beyond. I am your host, Brent Thomas, and I hope you're having a good night. Thanks so much for being here. As always, it's my great and sincere pleasure to be bringing you these bedtime stories every night that I can. I don't know how long I'll be able to continue to go 7 nights a week plus 3 podcasts, but so far so good. It feels good. I'm having a good time doing it, and as long as you guys keep showing up, it's hard to ever stop doing it, you know? And you guys are still showing up, so I guess that's my cue to continue going. Let's see, everything's sounding good. I think so. Everything's looking good. The chat is working on screen. I have to fix it every show, but hey, it's the price I pay to bring you the portal. But welcome, everybody. Hope you're having a great night. It's Tuesday night. You're almost a hump day. And, of course, hump day means tomorrow night. And that's when Don will be joining me here on the portal. And we'll tear up the night, as always, doing the magic that it is that we do. I don't know how magical it is, but it's just such a neat situation to be able to do a show and have fun doing it. And Don and I certainly have a blast doing the portal. So it's hard not to just have a good time anyway. But what the hell was I going to tell you guys about? Something went on today, and I don't quite remember what it was, but something was going on. But it slipped my mind completely. Anyway, I'm sure it'll come back sooner or later, or I'll think of something even better to talk about. But it's a good night. Tomorrow, of course, we got a great podcast coming out, and you can find that on iHeart, iTunes, Pandora, Spotify, Chatbox, etc., etc., etc. And it's going to be Haunted Highways again. The first Haunted Highway was, of course, I think it was Ty's, who called in, and we had a great interview with him and all of the things that he'd been through and seen. And Ty has a lot of friends. And his friends came in and sent in a couple more fantastic stories that I narrate, and as well as I called Gary in Australia and got his take on it. And that's a connection that our good friend Cade made for me of his encounter with the Yowie, and it's pretty intense. Just pretty. it's kind of humorous and intense, and all wrapped up into one. But I hope it's going to be a great show. I think it's a brilliant show, but I hope you guys like it as much as I like it. And that'll be coming out, of course, after midnight tonight. It'll be released. So whatever that means to where you are, you'll have to tell me, or you'll have to figure it out. It'll be out there, though, I promise. It's going to be like, Haunted Highways, Tales from the Trails, or something like that. Don liked that name, and I liked it too. I thought that was really clever. And Don came up with the Tales from the Trails, so we're going to have to use that. So anyway, we are at it. I hope you guys are all ready, because the bedtime stories is about to commence. And you know what that means? That means it's time for bed. Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah. Mo, do you mind if I put up that picture or no? How do you feel about that? It's up to you. I don't want to put you on the spot, but Moog sent me a picture, and fantastic. He's making that shirt look good. You're making that shirt look real good, brother. And thank you so much for participating in our giveaway. But yeah, let me know. Yeah, it is really cool. MCAT has one too, but it's a different design. The one that Moog has is the newest design. Uh, Julia. Yeah, I don't know if I want to see that mental image of your chest being full of snot, Julia. I'm sorry you're not feeling well, but I guess there's something going around. So, hello, Robert Edgington. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. And all of you guys, thank you for being here. Terrestrial Mac is sick too. What the hell's going on, you guys? Well, I'm glad you're well enough to be here in the portal for whatever that means. But don't get me sick. I'm just saying. Weird things happen in the portal, and the transmission of viruses might not be beyond the scope of possibility. I'm just saying. As weird stuff happens, put it up. All right, I will, brother. I will. You know I will. I will put that up right now. As a matter of fact, this is our good buddy. Let me pull it up and get it up on screen here. I guess I got to download it here. All right, let me download it, and I'm going to put it up. But, man, you're looking good, brother. You are making that shirt sexy. That's all I'm saying. Where the hell to go? I got to find where the hell the downloads are on this thing. Sometimes just... There it is. Okay. Let me do this. Oh, yeah, I think I can do this, actually. Let's see if I can get it up. No, that didn't sound right at all. The picture, damn it. Oh, jeez. I got to watch my, where the hell did it go? Oh, there he is, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't think about that, but he's actually snuck up behind me. And that's our brother Moog. He's wearing the portal gear. Jesus. I was like, where the hell is it? And yeah, he's making that look good. Let me see if I can put it up here, though. I definitely want... I don't know why it opened up way back there. I got to go way back there. Hold on. Like freaking Mr. Rogers on the trolley here. Got to go way back to that screen and then put it up over here. All right, let's put it up on this screen so y'all can see our brother. Sporting the colors, ladies and gentlemen. There he is, the madman himself, the Mogion. Yeah, that looks good, brother. Thank you so much for wearing that. Thanks for letting me put it up on the screen to show everybody that sexy gear. And if you want some sexy gear of your very own, you can certainly do that by heading over to teespring.com/stores/paranormal-portal. The actual link is in the description, so check it out. You too could be sporting the colors and making me damn proud in the process. So yeah, that looks good, man. It looks good. It's good to see you too, brother. That's the other part. The other cool part is that, we all talk to each other all the time, but having that image as well, I think is excellent, and I really appreciate it. So thank you for being on the show and being on the screen. Sorry about that. I forgot I had that camera on. Let me get back to this one. Boom. There it is. So Moog's got the gear going. So what do I got? I got stories for you guys, but I just want to say, if you want to call in and be a part of the show, you always can. You can always do that because the phone line is open. The phone number for the portal is 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. And so call in if you've got something paranormal that you'd love to share, because I'd certainly love to hear it. And I like it when you guys reach out and take part in the shows. Let's get a story up here and just get this started. No, that was the big long one I read last night. I forgot to close it. Yeah, I couldn't believe how long that was. It was like half the show, that one story. So, the next story that I've got up for you, or actually the first story tonight, but the next one that I had opened up, is a very short one, and this is coming from Alabama. So, this says, this event took place about 3 to 4 years ago. We have CCTV cameras throughout their facility, and I was working in the office monitoring them, and it was after midnight, and I was on the late shift then, and on the labor and delivery floor, I noticed a small white blob. It wasn't round like an orb in one of the hallways. At first, I didn't think anything of it, and I just thought it was a cobweb in the camera housing until it started playing. I watched it, for lack of a more descriptive term, dance around people as they made their way up and down the hall. It would bounce around on the people's heads, shoulders, and then fly from one side of the hall to the other. I called my supervisor and showed it to him, and he went and cleaned the housing of the camera, but it was still there. It really liked my supervisor. It danced all over his head and followed him the entire length of the hallway. Some people it would shy away from, hiding near the ceiling or going through a wall, but others would have a happy little visitor hovering around them. Too bad they couldn't see it for themselves. But he or she stayed with us for several weeks. Then one day, it just wasn't there. Wherever he or she is, I hope he or she is still dancing and having fun. Thanks for reading. Oh, you're welcome. That's really cool. That's a cool story. A lot of times it is, a lot of the claims of paranormal, capturing paranormal on these security cameras and such are most commonly just bugs on the lens, or near the lens, or they're cobwebs, or, there's some other just mundane anomaly, but it just, if something's really close to the lens, it's going to make it look kind of transparent. And that's where I think people, fall into it's a ghost. Well, maybe, but you definitely gotta really be careful about making any solid claims about any CCTV footage, because there's a lot of normal stuff that can appear like a ghost on a CC camera, closed circuit cameras. So definitely be careful about putting your reputation on the line for something like that, because there's lots of things it can be. And unfortunately, spiders love those damn things. And spiders build their nests around those, because usually the CCTV cameras are in a corner. They're up along the ceiling. Well, that's where spiders make their webs. And spiders are constantly cutting down their webs because they get old. They get full of dust and garbage, so they cut them down and restring new ones. And then you get these dangly, wispy things that people believe are spirits. So there was a really popular one that I think was from Pocatello High School in Idaho here, which is down south in the southern part of Idaho. And it was really famous. People were really jumping on it, but Don and I did a evidence review about it. And if you're wondering what that is, when we first started our YouTube presence, we just did these short little videos called evidence reviews, and you can still find them if you dig through the way back archives of the show. But we did that one, and initially it looks like something's coming out from a classroom and then going back, and then the lights flicker. But what we figured out was that camera, what I believe it was, and I can't be sure either, but what I believe it was that there's a camera pointing down the hallway in this high school. The lights would flicker on and then off, and suddenly this little wisp would seem to come out of the classroom door and out into the hallway, and then it would slowly go back. One thing that we kept finding consistently on these, the ghosts captured on camera for security cameras, was that they always seemed to have a pendulum motion, and meaning they didn't free float. They didn't usually free move. There was always like a tip to it, like it would come out and then come back. And that kept repeating so many times. And what it means is that it's probably a cobweb or a hair or something stuck on something. And so there's a point of origin that it's connected to. And so it swings out with any little breeze and then swings back. So in this Pocatello High School incident, I think what was going on is they were having power issues, or they were cycling power, and the vents would come on and then go off. And so the lights would flicker. That meant the power was coming in, and boom, the vents would start up and start blowing air down this hallway, which would then take that spider web, and the lights would be off, but then you'd see this little wisp come out like that and then go back. And I think it was just a cobweb anomaly, but that happens a lot, that people are making those claims. And quite honestly, I really believe you got to be careful about those, because there's too many false positives. Not that there isn't some really brilliant security footage out there. It's just that there's more often they're just bugs or some other anomaly that appears to be like translucent and spirit-like, but it's probably just a spider web in most cases, or something actually on the lens. Spiders crawling around on the lens is another big one, and they look really creepy. So just throwing it out there, guys. I like to try to put out information that I think is helpful, because if you're a paranormal enthusiast, you're going to be looking at all this stuff. And it's easy to just jump on the bandwagon and go, well, that's definitely spirits. That's definitely spirits. That's definitely spirits. And once you start really, really digging into it and looking at it with a discerning eye, you can find a lot of that stuff probably isn't. And I'm not going to say that it definitely isn't, but I'm going to say probably isn't. Because my intent is never to act like I've got this all figured out, because I don't. I'm not an expert. I'm just an enthusiast, but those are just things that I see. So I should probably go through and see who is here. My S's are sounding really sibilant, so I'm going to turn down my highs a little bit. I want to go through the roster here and just see who is in here, because there's a bunch of you in here now. Bama BF is here. Barry is here. Bella is here. Beth Fierce is here. Blacktree is here. Bob in Germany is here. Brown Dwarf, Cameron, D. Swiger, Deborah Varner, Elaine Clifford, Isaac Areola, Justin Langton, very cool. And Lewis is here, and Moog is here, as well as Rick the Purple Hobbit, Real Dill, Stacy Lynn, and Tesla Tech is in here. And then, of course, the Duke. And definitely check out the Duke's channel. He's always putting up new videos over there. So if you want to know more about the Bigfoots, Sasquatch, cryptids, giants, you got to check out the Duke's work. Brilliant channel. And he's always awesome coming here and helping us with the modding as well. And also check out his show on TFR. He's done 2 episodes so far on TFRlive.com, which is also broadcast on iHeart, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live. And both have been really good episodes. So check them out. Let's see, where are we at? I got more stories here. So, I guess I should say thank you guys for coming in. If I missed your name, I'm sorry about that. Oh yeah, you're welcome, Duke. Of course, brother. You got some amazing work up there and some amazing evidence as well. So definitely check it out. Oh, you were on our show a couple nights ago. Love the podcast. Thank you, Justin. I appreciate that, brother. And I mean, it just means the world. It's very cool. If I missed anybody, I'm sorry, but just yell at me or try to let me know. I'll keep watching for new names popping up on the chat here. But I think that was everybody that's chatting. Brown Dwarf is here. I see that. I don't know if that was on the list that I just read. And Lewis, did I say Lewis before? Blue Idaho. Hi, how you doing? Another Idahoan up here in the house. Welcome. All right, so Bob in Germany. Hey, Bob. Mary. Hi, Mary. Okay, so I've got more stuff cooking here on the storyboard. Man, I was going to say something else. Yeah, I've just been working. Oh, hi, Christina. How are you? Did I say your name? I'm sorry if I missed you, but hey, welcome to the show, and thanks for coming in. Yes, I did say you. Okay, Lewis. All right, I'm just trying not to miss anything, so just trying to recognize, you guys go out of your way to be here. I'm trying to recognize all of your appearances. So thank you guys so much. And there's more people in the channel as well. And to those of you that would rather just sit back and chat, cool. Thank you. It means the world to me that you're here, and please spread the love and spread the news about the portal. All right. The next story is coming from Colorado. Last year, we lost our dog, Buster. He's been our family pet for about 8 years, and one Friday night, he suddenly became really ill, and we found out he had an enlarged heart, which caused his health to decrease dramatically. To make a long story short, we had to have him put to sleep, which really distressed my wife, and she was very fond of him, and she bought the dog for our son, but it was really her dog. Buster always wore dog tags, which made a distinctive jingle whenever he moved around, and you would always know when he's nearby. But for the next several days after his death, the sound of dog tags could still be heard occasionally around the house. Well, I heard it once, very faintly, but my wife and son have heard it several times, and she wanted to believe that something else was making that noise, but I'd tell her that it was Buster just letting her know that he was okay and he's happy. We had the dog cremated, and a week later I went and picked up his ashes from the vet, and when I arrived home, my wife said that just before she heard the garage door open, she heard the dog tags jingle again, as if the dog was letting her know that I was in the driveway. That was the last time anyone ever heard Buster's dog tags. I guess that's a sign that he's moved on now that his ashes have been brought home. I've never heard of a pet coming back in spirit and making his presence known. Yeah, actually, that happens quite a bit. Many people have experienced it. Some people experience it in dreams. But other people, I've talked to many people through the years doing the show. One in particular, their dog passed away, and it always had this place it laid down in the kitchen. And this person came through, and without thinking, he just looked down and saw his dog laying there in the place that it loved to lay. And he said hi. I don't remember that he petted it or anything. He was like, oh, hey, whatever, his name was Spot. And then continued on his way. And then he stopped and he realized the dog had passed away like a week prior. And then he looked back and there was no dog there. But he looked over and clear as day, it was laying in the spot that it was always laying. And so, they do come back. My mom had what the hell kind of dog was it? It was a little white fluffy one. I don't know. It's not a Bashan. She's got a Bashan now, but it's another one that's a little tiny white dog, really soft. And his name was Tucker. And my mom was just really bonded with this dog. And he got sick with some kind of deal went on. And they did spend a lot to try to treat him. My mom and dad did, but he just didn't make it, and he didn't come through. And my mom still says to this day, every once in a while, she'll be laying in bed, and he'll jump up, and she feels him walk around like he always did, and find his one favorite spot to lay down next to her legs, plop down, and it still repeats every once in a while, even now. So, is that residual? Is that an intelligent haunting? I don't know. I think it's intelligent, and I think it's their way of saying, they're there, and I don't know if they're always there or not. I had a German Shepherd named Xena, and she was really great. No, I didn't name her. She came named, but she was just this really amazing dog, and she was really intelligent. Like you could tell there was such a profound soul in this dog. And most of you pet lovers will know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, there's some that are just dogs, and then there's some that are just amazing. They're these amazing, step up in the ladder or whatever, but they're just like people. They're like people, smart or something. And she has come to me a couple times in my dreams, and it's these incredibly profound, lucid dreams. And then towards the end of the dream, it's like she has to go. And she looks at me and then takes a few steps and then looks back. And it's just like this really heartfelt moment. It's like, no, don't go. Stay with me. Stay. And I try calling her. And in life, she always listened. She was just such a beautiful dog. She always just came. I never had to work real hard to get her to come over. And but she kept walking away. And it was like this moment that you realize, oh, my God, she's got to go again. I don't want her to go. And it's just, they always wake up with wet eyes, But they leave such an incredibly profound impact in our lives, and when they're gone, maybe they stick around, maybe they do, maybe they continue doing their dog stuff and cat stuff in the afterlife, or whatever kind of pet you have. They just seem to be really truly bound to us, and I think whether alive or not, they're still bound to us. I kind of like that old saying, I think it's the Rainbow Bridge or something, that when they pass, they're waiting. And then when the owners pass, then they go with them across the Rainbow Bridge. I think that's really sweet. So, but yeah, I think it's not uncommon that people experience their deceased pets still making their presence known. Some places are haunted by pets. They have these dog spirits or cat spirits. Or one place in particular, there was like a doctor that experimented on monkeys. And people constantly see the shadowy monkey apparition running around the building. So is that a creature that had become deceased there, or was killed in the name of science, and it's stuck around? I don't know, maybe. But it's kind of up to you guys to figure. All right, this one's from South Carolina, and it says this is another episode that occurred where I lived in Poston, Poston, South Carolina, which is where I grew up. When I was about 12 or 13 years old, I was riding home one night with my granddad, and He was driving when I spotted an old guy walking on the right side of the road facing the car. Well, as we approached him, I noticed that he looked a lot like a distant relative named Buddy, who had died about a week or so ago. Buddy had extreme severe arthritis in his hands and tended to walk with his hands up towards his chest, and the guy on the road held the same affliction. And as we passed him, he threw up one of his crooked hands and waved at us. I didn't say anything to my grandfather, but I'm sure he saw him too, and I just dismissed it as someone who looked an awful lot like Buddy. Well, some years later, while I was in the military, I came home on leave to visit my relatives, and we were sitting around talking about ghostly experiences that we've had. My sister mentioned that while driving home with our grandmother one night, they both saw Buddy walking along the same dark road, and he waved at him. She said our grandmother was driving at the time, and she realized that she had just seen his ghost, and she broke all kinds of traffic laws trying to get home. Oh, thank you, Justin. I appreciate that as well. It wasn't until my sister told that story that I realized I had actually seen Buddy's ghost and not someone who looked like Buddy. Poston is a small rural area and not a lot of people living there, so I guess I should have known that there couldn't have been anyone else there that looked like him. But when I saw him on the dark road that night, he looked like a solid flesh and blood person. He wasn't transparent or anything like that, which would indicate he was an apparition. My granddad probably knew he was a ghost, but didn't say anything to me because he didn't want me to get frightened. So, yeah, Grandpa was probably pretty stoic. I guess they both were, though, to see something so profound and to not freak out about it, but that's pretty incredible. This one's from Oklahoma. It says, I want to begin by saying that I'm just seeking answers to a reoccurring situation I've experienced in the past year. Several months ago, I was awakened by the presence of someone getting in my bed. I recall feeling concerned, but not really scared. I lay there for a moment, assuming one of my younger children had wakened and come and got in bed with me, and I awakened knowing what time to check, or the time the clock read, and I could also hear the fan blowing in the room, but nobody was there. Oddly enough, each time this has happened, my husband has been gone. I lay there for a moment thinking I must have dreamt it. Well, a few nights later, it happened again, same experience. Early morning visits from an unwelcome bed partner. I told my husband about this on the first instance. He tried to bring me comfort by saying I was just dreaming. Then we discussed how maybe it was related to the recent and unexpected death of my mom. She passed away unexpectedly in the early morning hours, so we thought maybe there was a connection, but I by no means think my mother is haunting me. For that matter, I'm not sure I believe in hauntings or ghosts. With each experience, I've never felt scared or panicked. I just feel excited and curious as to what or why it has happened. When it happens, I often just lay there and can feel it move. On some occasions, I can even hear the linens rustle, and it's very obvious to me that something or someone is there. But I assure you, there is no one in there. I've even reached to touch it, but the bed is cold and empty. After many months of this, I'm still not alarmed. I almost came to expect it. But as for my thoughts, I'm not sure who it is or if it's anyone. I suppose it's my mother. Perhaps it could be my father. I have no idea, since none of it makes sense to me. I had a good relationship with my mother and father when they passed, and my father's been gone almost 4 years, and my mom now for 7 months. I will add that these experiences have only begun since the passing of my mom. When I attended the graveside, I don't feel as if she's there. It's difficult for me to talk to her there. Yet I can freely and often do talk to my father. They rest side by side. I've not fully grieved for her, and I've been very busy in life, and some rather odd experiences have happened at the same time as her death. And with that, I've just not had the time to think about her death. I know she's gone, but she's still with me. Now with all of this, I'll add that our home is a new home, built on an old farm cattle land, and I'm open to the ideas that this has nothing to do with my mom or dad. Perhaps it's a mere coincidence that it all started when she passed. But I must ask, what is this? Why am I experiencing this? Is there a logical answer to this? Please let me clarify, I am definitely not sleeping during these situations. I can promise you I was sleeping before, but am awake by this circumstance. But I am very conscious during the process. If anyone has any answers or technical terms for what I've experienced, please help. Wow. Well, here is a caller right now. Area code 505, you're on the air.
Hey, this is a dynamite pizza parlor. What's going on? I'd like to get a mushroom, onion, and sausage pizza.
I don't think we can do the 30-minute delivery option.
Dang, this Purple Hobbit's kind of hungry. I'm just kind of hoping this is a great place for it.
No, sorry, man. All we got is the paranormal all night long.
Cool. How you doing?
Good. How are you? Who am I talking to?
Cool. This is Rick Purple Hobbit. How are you?
Oh, Rick. How you doing, brother? Good to see you. I'm doing wonderful.
Doing
Thank you.
How's Idaho?
Yeah. So how's your night going?
It's going good. Hey, you're talking about ghosts tonight, huh?
Oh, you betcha. Yep. We talk about them a lot.
I have a few stories, but right now I don't have time to tell you. I'll call them some other time. I just want to say hello.
No, you can tell them now if you want. But what's that noise in the background? Do you have the computer loud or something?
Well, yeah, I'm listening to you, so.
Oh. You got me coming and going. Can you turn that down and then tell us the stories?
I gotta go to work, but I'll call him some other night. Just so I call and give you a hard time. Have a good night.
All right, brother. Well, thanks for calling in, and I look forward to you calling back.
All right, sounds good. Bye.
All right, take care. That's awesome. We got the best listeners in the whole world. There's no question. You guys are awesome. So this experience with the body laying in the bed, but I don't know. It's I don't know what it would be. I don't know if there's a child involved or what. That seems like a very childish act, like a childlike act, or a really, really inappropriate act. One of the two. She said it only happens when the husband is gone, which I guess makes it sound kind of creepy to me. If it's not a child, then that's really disturbing. But, sorry, my eyes are burning up again. But I don't know. I mean, she's not feeling scared. She's not feeling really alarmed. She's just experiencing something that she doesn't understand. So what is it? I don't know. Hey, Lori, thank you. I'm the best. Yes. All right. I'm the best. It's a cool experience, though. That's nice to hear from Rick. Rick the Purple Hobbit. It's good to hear from him. All right, let's get to the next one. And this is from New York, Forget about it. I don't do a real great New York accent, but I'm working on it. But I'm not quite there. Let's see what's going on in New York. It says, in September 2005, my husband, myself, our 3 children, and dog moved into our house. It's a renovated lakefront cottage built in the 30s in a rural town of upstate New York. When we were drawn to the house for its charm and peaceful lake, but I must say that I did feel a bit uneasy when we first moved in. Within the first few weeks of living there, I experienced really some strange happenings. The house is a ranch style with a partially finished basement and an unfinished laundry room and workshop. There's also a dirt floor crawl space that you can only access from an outside door. I still can't bring myself to go in there. One night while carrying a basket of laundry up the basement stairs, the stairwell light flickered out. I tried the light switch at the top of the stairs a few times, but couldn't get it to work. I told my husband that we needed a new bulb, and when he flicked the switch, the light came on. It happened again, and the next night, and I made him change the bulb. Well, this flickering continued for a couple of weeks, even after the bulb change. While this was happening, my dog was also acting really bizarre. After I would get to the top of the stairway, He wouldn't follow me up like he normally would, but instead he would sit at the bottom of the stairs and bark at me as if he didn't know me, almost as if he was staring right through me, and he did this every day. After a short while, I woke early one morning before my husband left for work and found the front door wide open. Now, I know that I shut and locked the door before I went to bed, and when I questioned my husband about it, he denied leaving it open. I decided to mention that what was going on to a coworker of mine who had some knowledge of spiritual activity, and she suggested talking to the spirits and asking them to leave. I did, and other than some strange noises every now and then, everything seemed to stop until last night. We recently finished renovating part of the basement, which is actually ground level because the grading of the land is closed off 2 doors that used to give access to the basement from the outside. We made a master bedroom, a bathroom, and my 4-year-old son's bedroom. And there's a door from the master that goes up into the laundry room. Not up into. And which is the unfinished part of the basement. Well, my son woke up in the middle of the night last night and climbed in between my husband and I. He had a hard time falling back to sleep. After my husband left for work in the morning, my son and I were lying in bed, and he was staring at the open laundry room door, and he said, "Mom, when I move close to you, the monster has a mad face. But when I move to Daddy's side, the monster smiles." And I said, "Where's the monster?" He said, "Right there in the laundry room. He has a white face and red feet, and his head is up to the ceiling. See, when I move next to you, he gets a mad face." And I asked him if the monster talks to him, and he said no, but he puts his hand next to his mouth and whispers only at night. He also told me that the monster thinks that this is his house. We got out of bed, and I walked toward the laundry room to get a closer look, but my son said, "No, don't go in there, he gets mad." I didn't see anything, so I asked my son to show me where the monster was, but he couldn't look. He seemed terrified. He just said, "Tell him to leave, Mom, he freaks me out." We went upstairs, and my son was telling his 10-year-old sister about the monster, and she asked if he could show her where it was. So we brought her down to the basement, and he came running upstairs a minute later saying, "Yep, he's still there," but his sister couldn't see it. After thinking about this and what happened when we first moved in, I then remembered that when our next-door neighbor came to introduce himself, she mentioned a couple that used to live in our house several owners ago that would always argue and fight. Well, apparently the husband went missing, and that was all she had said. It all seems too coincidental now, and I have a feeling it will be a long night. Yeah, that's a whole lot of messes going on there. That's the trouble, I guess. You know, if you get a house, I don't know if it's not just better to just cleanse it right away before you get in there. I think it is. I think that'd probably be a good rule of thumb to just make sure to cleanse the hell out of it before you move in. Otherwise, you're dealing with whatever anybody left behind. Sometimes that can just mean a real plethora of negative energy, just arguing and fighting and stuff, and that is an energy, and it permeates the house. It just becomes part of a house. So you got to get in there and I would think do some serious cleansing before you ever move into a new place. But, to each his own. I can't say I practice what I preach. I usually don't think about it too much, but, I suppose if I was smart, I would. We're going to California dreaming now. We're going to the state of California. This is not too long. Okay. It says, I felt it was about time to share some of my experiences. I've had a lot of different experiences throughout my life, but I would like to start at the beginning, at least for me. I found out a couple of years ago my mother's grandmother would have people come over to the house to deliver fortunes, meet with her, talk about God knows what. So I don't know if the things I've encountered were generational. I lived in West Covina, California, and my mother was a real estate agent, and my dad worked in the union. And now the question I ask myself is, why these bad things happen to people in general? But I guess bad things hate everybody the same. Yeah, I guess so. I was about 5 or 6 years old. I had my own bedroom. I felt very relaxed in bed. and finally fell asleep. And when I awoke, it was around 3 or 4 a.m. Not sure, but my bedroom door was closed. I never left it closed, and my parents knew to keep it open at all times. Another thing occurred. I felt a presence in the room, even though I could not see very much. I could sense something straight across the room next to the closet. I ran to the door, and something grabbed my leg and pulled me backwards. I reached out and held the doorknob, and I could not scream, so I just kicked and kicked, my legs flying everywhere. In my head, I was calling help to God, still kicking, and I felt whatever it was let go of me. I pulled open the door and ran to the hallway and turned on the lights. I looked behind me, inhaling air and breathing hard, but there was nothing in sight. I went into my parents' room and said, "Someone is in my room." My dad grabbed his pistol from under the bed and went into the room. Later, he returned and said that nothing was there. The window with screen intact was wide open, though, and second story, so no intruder could get up there without a ladder, and I slept with my parents that night. I was around 5 or 6 years old, and that was the end of the peaceful nights for me. Later, I'll share more stories that deal with strange events and undoubting proof, but that's how it all started. My question to experienced individuals would be why? Why do you think at such a young age? What was the purpose? At that age, I was a very generous, kind, understanding kid. Usually people try to contact spirits or get into some mischief to upset the ghosts. And has anyone here had these things happen to them at such a young age? Well, I can't say I can't relate to that, but I can say that there's a lot of kids that are just dealing with some serious paranormal stuff. Perhaps it's because they can see them. They can actually observe them and witness them, but maybe it's just because you were there. I don't know if it's that discerning. I think some negative entities may look at kids and figure that they're easy targets, easy to deceive and to fool. But I don't know. It doesn't seem fair, does it? The idea that these small children deal with so much, but I guess that's why you got to talk to your kids about it. Help them understand. The worst thing that can happen is your kid comes and tells you they saw something. No, it's just your imagination. Oof. That's brutal. That's telling a kid not to trust their own experience. And again, I always know why parents are trying to do that. They're trying to just assuage the fears of their children, but if they're terrified, if they've seen something, you got to help them process that. They can't do that on their own. This one's California. One of my first experiences with the paranormal occurred 10 years ago when visiting my mom's hometown of Mixtlan, M-I-X-T-L-A-N, Jalisco, Mexico, for the second time. On my first trip to Mexico, I had the opportunity to meet my great-grandmother. My great-grandmother had just turned 100 years old and was not in very good condition when I met her the first time, and a few days later, my great-grandmother was bitten by a venomous spider and fell into a coma before dying in my grandmother's house. On the day of my great-grandmother's death, I remember the town's doctor pronouncing her dead. Many people filled the room she was in and surrounded her bed, and I was 7 or 8 at the time of her death, and I had the opportunity to say my last goodbyes. On that same night, my mother had gone to the city of Guadalajara to get medicine that was not available in the town, and therefore she didn't know about my great-grandmother's passing. After an hour of my great-grandmother's death, my mom arrived to the house just to be received by the bad news. My mom was heartbroken and began to cry because she was unable to say her last goodbyes to her loving grandmother. I remember entering the room once again with my mom. My mom headed straight to meet my great-grandmother's bed, grabbed her hand, and after my mom grabbed her hand, she whispered in her ear, "Abuela, la luego su hija Oralia." Grandmother, your daughter Oralia just arrived. On that moment, everyone stood in shock just to see my great-grandmother move her arm. My mother was able to give her last goodbyes, and at that moment, my great-grandmother closed her eyes and took her last breath. My great-grandmother now rests in peace. On my second trip to Mexico, I was 10 or 11 years old, and I remember sleeping in the same room where my great-grandmother had died a couple years earlier. Just to know that I remembered that occasion made me so scared to sleep there. A week and a half into my stay in that room, I felt uneasy for no apparent reason. One night I was sleeping alone in that room when something woke me up, and I tried to go back to sleep, but I then began to hear noises coming from within the room. Knowing that I was alone in the room, it frightened me even more. I again tried to close my eyes to see if I could fall asleep, but the noise got worse. And I began to hear heavy breathing coming from the right side. I didn't know if it was me breathing hard or what it was, so I tried to ignore it, and the next thing made me realize that I was not alone in the room. Suddenly, I felt a strong tug from my blankets. Once my blankets were pulled, I fell into a state of paralysis. I couldn't scream when I wanted to and move, and after a couple of seconds, I then was able to run to my mom's room, where I woke up her mother, grandmother, and grandfather. Once awake, I told my grandmother what had happened, and she did not believe me. I told her it was my great-grandmother. The response I got from my grandmother was, "No one has died in this room." I knew that she was not fully honest with me, and I told her I remember everything that happened in that room a couple of years ago. She said I had a bad dream, and till this day I still think it was my great-grandmother trying to communicate with me in a very strange way. I'm now 21 years old since that incident, and I have stayed in that room once, but with 4 other people, and this experience has changed my life. I have a much bigger respect for the paranormal, but also this experience has frightened me a lot. I'll be reading and responding to comments, blah, blah, blah. Thanks for reading. Yeah, I don't know. If I can't imagine if somebody loves you that they're going to do something so absolutely terrifying to you. I don't know. That's hard for me to get my head around. Let's see. We got maybe time for one more. One more story, or 2 if they're short. Let's see what we got. Oh, this is good. This will be the one. We're going to Texas for our final story of the night, and this is the state of Texas, where everything's bigger, even the spirits. As long as I can remember, there have always been strange things happen, or the feelings of someone watching you. My mom has told my sisters and me about some of the strange things that happened to her when she was younger. There's one story that she told us that took place where my aunt had passed away. It was my great-grandmother's house, and my aunt was very sick, and the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with her, so they took her home where she could go in peace in her own home. Well, that night she passed on, and my mom told me that she was sitting in the living room when all of a sudden the radio started playing my aunt's favorite song. She had gotten up to turn the radio off, only to find that it wasn't even plugged in. But that's not the first strange thing to happen in that house. There's a story that she told us before that happened when she was a little kid. My great-grandmother used to babysit her and my aunts when they were little, and one day when she was about 10 or 11, she was out in the backyard, and she saw this black stuff sticking out of the ground, and when she went to pull on it, it wouldn't budge, so she went to get a scissors, but when she came back, it was gone. She told us the weird thing was that it was black and shiny and felt like the softest silk you had ever felt. And when she turned to go back into the house, there were 2 angels standing in the garden. I was holding a harp, or one was holding a harp, rather, and the other was holding an open Bible. It seems, though, that things have happened to a lot of people in my family. I remember my 3-year-old daughter's encounter. I went to live with my mom and dad in 2002 when my ex-husband and I split, and the weirdest things would take place in that house. I remember one evening my mom and I are sitting in the living room talking when we hear my daughter carrying on a conversation with someone in the dining room. Well, we blew it off at first, just thinking she was playing, but we started noticing that every day she would go into the dining room and go to this certain corner and start talking to someone. My mom asked her who she was talking to, and she would say, The bad man, Nana. The bad man. That freaked my mom and myself out so bad we weren't sure what to do, or even think for that matter. Well, we never told anyone about that until one day my sister and my nephew came over to visit my daughter. It was with her dad, and I say this because my nephew was in the dining room talking to someone like my daughter did. Only this time he went up to my mom and told her, "Nana, the bad man doesn't like you living here." Well, as you can imagine, that scared the crap out of my mom. Well, we started having these things happen. Like one night I was lying in bed, and I was just getting off to sleep when all of a sudden my bed started shaking. I mean, violently. I'd never been so scared in my life. So the next morning I told my mom what happened, and she said the same thing happened to her. After that, we would hear someone walking up and down the stairs, or the bathroom door downstairs would open and close, and we would see shadows in the dining room. And almost every night the beds would shake, so my mom started sleeping in her recliner in the living room because she hated the feeling of the bed shaking. Only whatever this was started shaking the recliner. Well, my sister was telling my mom and me that one night my nephew would talk to the bad man at her house, and it was really scaring her. So mom and her mother-in-law told her to say a protection prayer over him, and then that night she did, and she went and lay him down to bed, and he told her, "Mama, look at all the pretty angels," and he pointed to the ceiling. But she said after that he never talked about the bad man again. My mom doesn't live in that house anymore, but whoever or whatever it was in that house has followed her to her new house. I know this all sounds crazy, but I still have a hard time believing that all this happened, and if I hadn't been there, I would have told her she was crazy. So, wow. Those kids are just wide open, man. Wow. It's too bad that we lose that somehow. It's too bad that those things generally don't last for a lifetime. Sometimes they do. And those people, I think, are pretty fortunate, although they may not feel fortunate. A lot of times, the children, when they're dealing with this stuff, are extraordinarily tormented because they just, how do you process all of that? It's hard enough to process regular life, much less supernatural life on top of that. So, but I just think it's probably something that's available to all of us, but for some reason we either need to learn it somehow or we need to figure out how to turn it on in us. I don't know. And maybe by both, maybe a little of each, maybe by the knowledge, it flips a switch in our genetics or something. I don't know. But I don't know. Kids are such open books. But anyway, I guess that's going to about wrap it up for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here for the Paranormal Portal Bedtime Stories from Beyond. Again, tomorrow, the new podcast comes out, and this is the Tales from the Trails, Haunted Highways and Truckers Experiencing the Paranormal. So I hope you guys will check it out. And if you like the podcast, you like what you're hearing, please head over to iTunes. Leave us a phenomenal review. That really helps. It helps to get iTunes to recommend it to other people as well. So the podcast is growing great, and you guys have been amazing. So thank you all for the support and love. And I will be back tomorrow night with Dawn for the 2-hour show here on the Paranormal Portal YouTube show. So I hope you guys are able to be here then, but love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other, help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. We'll see you later, guys. Have a great night and sweet dreams.